Hello, lovely, and welcome back to the Max Goodwin YouTube channel and another episode of the Euro Reaction, where we dissect some of the biggest games and talking points from across the European Championships. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at some of the biggest games from the third set of fixtures in the group stages as we move through into the knockout stages, talking about some of the teams that have advanced and some of the teams that have flattered to deceive. That's the word I am going for. We're going to be kicking things off this episode, though, talking about the England-Czech Republic game from last night. Before we do that, though, please don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel, turning on notifications so you don't miss a single video. Without any further ado, let's crack into it and get in some European Championships action. All right, we're going to be kicking things off with the game from last night, probably the biggest one on the lips of most football fans, certainly most of the football fans in this country, that being England taking on the Czech Republic in Group D, a game with huge implications as to who would top the table going into the knockout stages and also who would be going through lower down in the group. And the game would eventually end 1-0 to England thanks to a 12-minute Raheem goal set up by Jack Grealish. So happy to see him getting into that team, and also Bukayo Saka having a huge hand in that goal as well. And they were the two players who on the day I was very impressed with. 8 progressive carries from Grealish, 6 from Saka. They were the first and second respectively in the squad for those metrics, as well as top 5 in the England squad for pressures during the game. A couple of progressive passes each as well, and obviously, like I mentioned, both very crucial into the build-up of the goal. And it's given Gareth Southgate a lot to think about, especially considering the implications of tonight's fixtures with Germany, France, Portugal and potentially even Hungary sitting in to potentially be facing England in the round of 16 at Wembley on Tuesday. My bet probably going to be one of Portugal or Germany. I think France are probably going to wrap up the group in top place, and then it's probably going to be between Portugal and Germany as to who England actually face in the second round or in the knockout stages of these European Championships. Just wanted to give some of my thoughts, my raw reactions on the game that happened last night, and I've had a chance to rewatch the highlights, have a little think about it, and have a look at some of the stats under the hood for this game. The most important thing I think this gave us was some real food for thought, especially for Gareth Southgate. Grealish and Saka both very impressive in the end with those stats, as I mentioned earlier, as well as the fullbacks, giving Gareth Southgate something to think about in maybe a position of the pitch that we didn't necessarily think about. Both fullbacks, Luke Shaw and Carl Walker, in the end being a lot more aggressive, getting in the faces of the Czech players. 4 tackles and interceptions completed apiece. However, this team still does feel slightly pedestrian, particularly in the midfield. These are some of the stats from across the tournament. We are currently 18th for expected goals for, lower than North Macedonia and Ukraine. Not good, really not good from England. However, England are currently 3rd for expected goals against, 2nd worst for tackles, 5th worst for crosses, despite being quite an aerially dominant team and quite a tall team as well. And at times you could definitely throw a blanket over the top of the England midfield and defence. We're definitely falling back into quite a low block at times, particularly when a team has a sustained period of pressure, which you would normally expect, especially for a team who have players who play quite a lot in counter-attacking systems. You look at the way Chelsea play in particular, how Reece James and Mason Mount and Ben Chilwell will be playing, obviously very compact vertically system that Thomas Tuchel deploys at Chelsea. And we'll see that a lot over the course of the tournament, the compact verticality of this team. However, it's about getting the ball out of that defence and up to the front line as quickly as possible. And despite how compact the team is, not really seeing that at the moment. I've been a little bit disappointed with England as of late. Of course, the 0-0 draw against Scotland could be forgiven, considering Scotland were actually really good, really organised in the end. However, the lack of movement ahead of the front line was very rigid, the midfield a bit flat, even though Mason Mount was sort of floating around doing things in the Scotland game, didn't really get himself involved. And it was a little bit the same in the Czech Republic game. Grealish definitely offered a little bit more than Mason Mount did in the game against Scotland, but not much more. He wasn't really getting beyond, he was mainly drifting out to the left, allowing Sterling to drift inside, where I don't want to be mean to the guy because I love Raheem Sterling, but he is not the strongest in the centre of the park. Obviously, he got the goal and actually wasn't that bad in the end. He was pretty good in spells for the team, but he does not work operating from a deep central position He wants the ball out wide where he can take on players, where he can use his pace, where he can use that exceptional movement that he's really sort of honed to be one of his key traits at Manchester City under Pep Guardiola. Harry Kane still looking a little bit isolated, did drop a little bit deeper last night though, which was good to see. I think he registered the most touches of a single game for him so far in the tournament. Also got his first shots on target, which a little bit worried after 3 games that you're managing that, but we'll allow it to slide, Harry, don't worry about it. Defensively looking really solid though. Harry Maguire, a really big addition at the back, although I did actually think Tyrone Mings was pretty good in the last 2 games. Harry Maguire's ball playing ability out from the back was exceptional. I had the most progressive passes in the side alongside Grealish and Saka, and just overall was very important in the way in which he brought the ball out from defence and helped progress the ball through the centre of the park, which seemed to be in which the way England tried to operate for large spells of the game. Okay then, so I wanted to talk a little bit about England going forward, how I would deploy the team, especially considering the calibre of opponent we are at least going to be facing in the next round. Best case scenario is Hungary, who are very unlikely to get out of this group. Worst case scenario, France, Germany or Portugal. Now, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news to you guys, but we are not beating one of those teams with the way we've been playing in this tournament so far. No disrespect to the players we have at our disposal at the moment. There have been some very impressive individual performances throughout the tournament so far. But as a team, it just is not working at all. We do not have the players in the team, or certainly the structure within the team to set the tempo of a game. So we are very much relying on players coming out of position for the opposition teams, and also playing a little bit on the counter-attack, particularly for the goal against Czech Republic last night. It was not necessarily a counter-attack, but it was definitely, players out of position for the Czech Republic. They were outside of their structure. We were able to break that down pretty easily. If we come against a team who want to play onto us, such as a Germany or maybe a Portugal, I don't necessarily think we'll do too badly. But if we came up against France, who don't really set the play or set the tempo in their games in the group stages, they've been quite defensive, a little bit dogged, I think we'd really struggle to break a team like that down, particularly with the talent deficit we have in our team compared to that, and the talent advantage they have compared to the opponents we've played so far in the tournament. So not looking too promising so far, but let me know in the comments below what you think of England's performances so far Euro 2020, and in general, the performances of your team so far this tournament. Also, let me know who you think we're going to be facing in the round of 16 and how you think we're going to get on. Let's quickly get into some of the other games from the last set of group stage fixtures, have a little wrap of them up, and then get to the end of this video. We're going to be kicking things off in Group A, a win for Italy against Wales thanks to a goal from Adam Pessina, and a red card from Ethan Ampadu for Wales meant that they topped their group. A perfect record, 3 for 3, 7 goals for, 0 against. Very impressive performance from the Italians throughout this tournament, but I would say a very good performance as well from Switzerland. Goals from Haris Seferovic and Xherdan Shaqiri, a hat-trick of assists for Zuba, put them ahead 3-1 against Turkey, who eventually got a consolation goal through Kvetchi, Çalhanoğlu getting the assist for that one. An impressive performance for Switzerland in Group B. The final standings in that group do sit with Italy topping the group, Wales finishing second and going through, Switzerland coming third, going through as one of the better third place teams, and Turkey burning out in fourth position. I said they were going to be one of the dark horses. I think everyone was pretty confident how Turkey were going to be this tournament. Young, exciting team. The manager who took them to the World Cup semi-finals in 2002. Overall, I think most people were pretty, I wouldn't say like massively excited, but pretty bullish about how good Turkey were going to be. Completely bottomed out in this group. Just absolutely flat, no creativity, pretty porous defensively despite having Meri Demiral and Karius Soyuncu in defence. I don't know what's happened to them. Obviously, the manager has not been able to rub some of that luck onto them. Disappointing, though, for the Turks. In Group B, Romelu Lukaku did manage to get himself on the score sheet in a 2-0 win over the Finns, meaning that Belgium do eventually top their group in Group B, and Denmark managed to pull off a 4-1 win against Russia. Damsgaard, Poulsen, Christensen and Miel getting the goals, double of assists for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg of Tottenham Hotspur. And this is how Group B ended up shaping up. Belgium going 3 for 3, perfect record for the Belgian Red Devils in their group. Denmark going through in second because of goal difference, Finland finishing third and Russia finishing fourth. or both finishing on 3 points apiece. Pretty tight in the lower ends of Group B. Would have been interesting to see which of those teams goes through. Happy to see Denmark go through, particularly considering how rough a tournament they have had with the unfortunate illness of Christian Eriksen earlier in the tournament. Great to see him getting discharged from hospital the other day as well. Very happy to see that. Speaking of perfect 3-for-3 records, the Netherlands go through top of Group C, picking up a perfect 100% record following a win over North Macedonia in their final group game. And then there was the clutch game between Austria and the Ukraine as to who would be going through in second place in that group, as Austria eventually prevailed in that game, meaning they will be joining the Netherlands in the next stages of these European Championships. I think this group pretty much shaped up exactly how I wanted it to be. Surprising, considering I don't think I've actually managed to get that so far, but you know, pretty decent I would say. Austria, pretty impressed to see them go through. I think they've got a very talented squad. Should be interesting to see how they do in the next stages of this tournament. And of course, we mentioned earlier the win for England over the Czech Republic, a 1-0. Pretty decent performance. It was like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 performance against the Czechs. And so this is how Group D finished in the end. England finishing top of the group, 2 wins and 1 draw, not conceding a single goal throughout the qualifying period. Croatia finishing second, Czech Republic finishing third, Scotland finishing bottom thanks to the drubbing they received 3-1 at Hampden Park against Croatia. Pretty disappointing, although a beautiful goal from Luka Modric in the end to settle the tie. Very disappointing for Scotland. They were actually really good against England. Pretty decent actually against Czech Republic, despite the 2 goals they conceded from Patrick Schick. So obviously they can complain that they didn't get through, and I completely understand that, but a lot of positives to take away from this tournament for the Scots. Hopefully they can qualify for the World Cup in 2022. I'd really love to see them out in Qatar with us. And hopefully all the other home nations. It's great to see them all getting involved, particularly when they end up in the same group as us. Obviously very disappointed for Scotland, but great for England qualifying through. And it should be interesting to see who we end up facing in the next round. One of probably France, Germany or Portugal. That being said though, that does wrap up this episode of the Euro reaction. Sorry it's been a little bit all over the place, rushing to get out today on the same day of recording, which I don't normally try and do, so hopefully it's all come together well in the editing process. If you did enjoy it, please don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel, turning on notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MaxDJGoodwin. And all that being said, thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you in the knockout stages for some more of the Euro reaction.